TIFU by overdosing on 1.8 grams of diphenhydramine. Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is coming from thatguyatyauscuisine off Reddit. When this happened, January 28th, 2019. The drug used was diphenhydramine at a dose of 1.8 grams. The route of administration, orally. Prior experience, 6 months of diphenhydramine use, and the setting, at home, mainly in his room. So here's a report of a very high DPH report that didn't go in the user's favor, as if most do. But what I specifically mean by that is that most people who dare to go in that far are hoping to get at least some kind of trip out of it. Some are looking to end up in a complete state of delirium, but that simply isn't the case here. While some hallucinations and trip-like effects are eventually experienced, for most of the experience, this user doesn't experience much other than the strong physical impact of the dose. To keep it short, he ends up in a very painful state due to the dehydration and strain from the substance. The experience starts off rough, and he eventually goes to sleep after 6 hours. But this trip isn't too packed with activity. This report is a good example that shows DPH isn't guaranteed to make you see anything. You may just end up in an agonizing mess or just blacking out. Especially for this dose and what he ends up experiencing, the payout simply just doesn't seem worth it. You're much more likely to end up hurting yourself rather than receiving a satisfactory experience. And note, the user does have a tolerance coming into this, which may play a role. We'll have a little breakdown of diphenhydramine at the end and bring up a couple of experiences as well to compare. So let's waste no more time. Without further ado, let's dive right into this. This happened 3 days ago. I'm aware that there are many other reports about the same mistake. You may call me an idiot for not knowing better, and you would be absolutely right. First, some backstory. It was a combination of boredom, dissatisfaction with life, and an ever so growing curiosity towards the unknown. I wanted to break through from this reality, forget everything, and be immersed in a completely strange world. The strange aspect of diphenhydramine is its nonlinear nature of effects. The psychedelic properties can be felt even at low doses, but decrease with increasing dosage as the negative effects, particularly the dry throat and the sense of impending doom, overtake them. However, at a high enough dose, typically referred to as the breakthrough dose, or the 700 club, the negative effects essentially dissipate and one is left in a state of delirium where it becomes impossible to discern reality and imagination. As I began to dive deeper and deeper into these high doses, I deluded myself that I must continue to increase my dose to keep experiencing these states of psychosis without letting my body fully rest and reset my tolerance. And so, my intoxicated mind decided that ingesting 1,800 milligrams or 72 pills would be a good idea the very next day after tripping on 1,200 milligrams. I put on some music and waited for the effects to kick in. It only took 2 hours until I started to regret everything. The sense of impending doom was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. My throat felt like it was on fire, and sipping water relieved it for only a few seconds. My chest started tightening, as well as my back, left arm, and my neck. My entire body was constantly shaking, and I was profusely sweating through my hands and feet. The only thing I could think of was pain, pain, pain. I felt very nauseous, yet could not bring myself to throw up for the fear of waking my roommates and making them see how fucked up I was. I spent the next 6 hours in agonizing pain, trying my best to deep breathe and taking a walk of shame to the bathroom every 10 minutes. Urinary retention made it nearly impossible to urinate, but was relieved when sitting on the toilet made it work. The stimulating effect of diphenhydramine at such a staggering dose, combined with an already staggering tolerance, made it impossible to drift into delirium as I was constantly brought back to the reality of my suffering. I've never overdosed on caffeine, but I would imagine it would be similar to this experience. I managed to fall asleep around 3 a.m. and proceeded to have vivid dreams all night, some of which I still remember clearly. In my dreams, I was shown countless flashbacks of my childhood, including past traumas, which I subconsciously embedded in the deepest parts of my memory. I woke up the next morning with a horrible headache, fatigue, and a numbing soreness around my chest, back, and left arm. Apparently, I've slept on my left side all night, which was a bad idea since it put unnecessary strain on my heart and surrounding blood vessels, limiting the blood flow to the area. I've lost the sensation to touch in that area, and still hurts when I rub it. Although I felt absolutely terrible physically, emotionally, I felt calm and happy that I'm still alive and that I've made through it. This was also when I noticed the external hallucinations for the first time, seeing shadow figures walking all around my vision. I spent the day resting, eating pasta, and doing simple tasks like cleaning my room. It's 3 days later, and I finally got my full appetite back. I'm still recovering physically, but I'm really glad that I made it through intact, mentally and emotionally. I've used this experience to work on myself, set my goals straight, and promise myself to try my hardest staying sober, at least during this semester. Thanks for reading, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Too long, didn't read? Tripped on 1800 milligrams of DPH. Ended up not tripping at all, almost died. So diphenhydramine, a substance well known across this channel. It's one of the most common over-the-counters used today, possibly the most wide used delirium on top of that. While it does a solid job what it is meant for medicinally, it has been found that you could potentially trip off the substance as it is an antihistamine. Antihistamines in themselves are known for having this potential in overdosing. And by trip, it isn't trip like your acid, your shrooms, where things get more colorful, bendy, and whatnot. The hallucinations experienced from deliriums are known to be indistinguishable from reality, meaning your best friend who showed up randomly probably isn't actually there. Among this, people report seeing things like spiders, phantom cigarettes, shadow people, all sorts of monsters and demons, and pretty much any other kind of nightmare you can think of. So because of this, on top of the feelings you may have, which can be dysphoric, many people choose to avoid doing this. On top of ending up in a nightmare trip, diphenhydramine in high doses is known to be straining on the body. This report was a good example of the negative effects of dehydration, often leading you to the bathroom multiple times only to struggle to pee anything out. Also, you can experience stress on the heart. DPH can cause tachycardia and an abnormal heart rhythm. There can be motor loss control and even muscle cramps and spasms. Nausea is another potential factor. Overall, it just isn't going to be a friendly thing on the body. We can see from this report, high doses will often leave one with a hangover of just feeling tired and like shit. So, it may take days to recover from this as well. Granted, you don't die or end up going to the hospital, because a dose like this is known for doing such things. Now let's bring up a couple other reports to see how they relate. Now the first report I want to bring up is Don't Underestimate Your Drugs by Errol Bolt. Errol and his friends took a higher dose of 2,500 milligrams and suffered a lot worse. Now Errol and his friends ended up stranded in a neighborhood, walking around aimlessly. His friends got help and ended up being transported to the hospital, where one of his friends suffered from rhabdomyolysis, a condition where the muscle tissue begins to break down and damage the kidneys. Errol was pretty incomprehensible most of the night, just trying to make it back home. He ended up blacking out for portions of his experience and thinks he may even walked into a random house. The damage is certainly there, and the user for today's report could have ended up in a similar blackout mess, but luckily didn't. The other report I want to bring up is Looping Through Reality with Benadryl by Beta. Now Beta consumed between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams of DPH on top of smoking and drinking. Beta wanted to get messed up with his friends, and he saw DPH as the best way to do this. The trip ended him up in a very confused mess for the most part, and unable to talk, which frustrated him a lot. His friends couldn't seem to understand him, no matter what he did, and felt like they had to babysit him. Beta did experience many trippy effects and hallucinations. One that stands out the most is the manipulation of time. But the main similarity that sticks out here is the heavy degree of sedation, along with the hangover. Beta 2 ended up feeling drained and severely dehydrated the day after, and he claimed he felt as if he was in agony for the next few days recovering. This just shows how impactful DPH can be in high doses. But we're going to end it there today. I do feel like this report did shed some new light on DPH, specifically what can happen potentially, especially if you have a tolerance. But if you want to see more on DPH or any substance at all, let me know in the comments below and we can do that. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, hit that sub button, like the video if you haven't already, follow the socials, share the video. It's been someone that's no one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.